Rain hammered against the large glass windows of the opulent wedding hall, a rhythmic drum that echoed the storm raging inside Maya Carter's chest. She stood at the edge of the crowded ballroom, a vision in her deep emerald gown, but the color felt like a cruel joke against the crimson blush creeping across her cheeks. Her best friend's laughter, once warm and familiar, now cut through her like shards of glass. "You really shouldn't have worn that," whispered one bridesmaid behind her, smirking. "It draws too much attention." Another rolled her eyes as she passed, muttering, "Why is she even here?" Maya's hands clenched into fists at her sides, her nails digging into her palms. She had flown halfway across the country to be here, to celebrate Emily's wedding, the woman who had shared her dreams, late-night secrets, and childhood fears. But here, in this gilded hall filled with glittering chandeliers and soft piano music, she felt invisible and yet painfully conspicuous, a target of whispered judgments and subtle cruelty. If you believe in kindness and second chances, please like, comment, share, and subscribe to our channel, Kindness Tales, and help us spread hope. Her heart ached as memories of better times with Emily flickered in her mind. The sleepovers where they stayed up until dawn talking about life, the endless support during tough school years, the promise that they'd always be there for one another. And now, all of that seemed shattered, replaced by smirks, judgment, and humiliation. It wasn't just the whispers. One of the groomsmen, a tall man with a polished smile, had deliberately bumped into her, spilling red wine onto her dress. The silence that followed was deafening. Not a single friend stepped forward to defend her. Maya's chest tightened as hot tears threatened to spill, but she refused to give them the satisfaction of seeing her cry. She excused herself, moving toward the balcony to escape the stares, the laughter, and the whispers that felt sharper than any dagger. Outside, the cold wind whipped at her hair, mixing with the tears she could no longer hold back. She thought of Jameson Hale, her ex-boyfriend, billionaire entrepreneur, and someone who had once believed in her when the world hadn't. Their breakup had been mutual, life circumstances forcing them apart rather than lack of love. But Jameson had always had this uncanny ability to see her worth, even when she doubted herself. She shivered, imagining his tall, imposing frame and the warmth in his eyes, wondering if he would even know the storm she was facing tonight. As the reception continued, Maya's despair deepened. She felt the weight of every judgmental gaze, every sharp comment, as though the room itself was conspiring to crush her spirit. And yet, there was a flicker of resolve inside her, a quiet voice that reminded her she was stronger than this, that she had endured worse and had come out alive. She drew in a shaky breath, determined not to let this night define her, but fate, it seemed, had a plan of its own. The grand doors at the end of the hall swung open, and the music faltered for a brief moment. Heads turned, whispers spreading like wildfire. And there, stepping into the light, was Jameson Hale. His tailored navy suit seemed to command the room, his presence undeniable. But it was his gaze that found her immediately, sharp, concerned, and protective. Time slowed as he crossed the room, parting guests like the sea, his eyes locked on hers. Maya's heart leapt. She hadn't expected to see him, certainly not tonight, and certainly not in the middle of this humiliation. She could hardly breathe as he reached her side, his hand gently brushing against her elbow, a lifeline in the chaos. "Maya," he said, his voice low, steady, carrying a warmth that melted the ice around her heart. "Are you okay?" Her lips trembled, but she managed a nod, unable to speak. The groomsmen and bridesmaids, who had been so quick to judge her, now shifted uneasily under Jameson's gaze. He was not someone to be ignored, and his presence alone demanded respect. Jameson's eyes swept the room, landing on the smug bridesmaid who had whispered cruelly about her dress. He didn't speak yet, but the intensity of his stare was enough. The air seemed charged, electric with anticipation, as if the entire hall held its breath. Maya felt a warmth of vindication rising in her chest, not from revenge, but from the knowledge that she was no longer alone in this fight. The night unfolded with a tension that felt cinematic. Jameson guided her back inside, offering his arm, shielding her from the casual cruelty she had endured moments before. As they walked past the crowd, whispers turned to silence, stares softened into awe. The once insidious glances were now tinged with recognition. Maya was not someone to be dismissed. They found a quieter corner near the large, ornately decorated windows. Maya let herself exhale fully for the first time, leaning slightly into Jameson's side. The storm outside had calmed, leaving behind a gentle drizzle that mirrored the stillness in her heart. "I didn't know they would treat you like this," Jameson murmured. "No one deserves that, especially you." "I thought I could handle it," Maya admitted, her voice barely above a whisper. "I wanted to be happy for Emily, but I felt like I was invisible, or worse, like a joke." "You're never invisible to me," Jameson said, his hand brushing a strand of hair from her face. "And no one has the right to make you feel less than what you are, strong, beautiful, and worthy of love and respect." As the night wore on, Maya began to see a shift, not just in her ex-boyfriend's presence, but within herself. Each whispered insult, each judgmental stare, began to lose its power over her. She realized that the humiliation she had endured did not define her. What defined her was resilience, grace under fire, and the ability to rise above cruelty. Jameson didn't just offer comfort, he reminded her of her value, her strength, and the light she carried. And slowly, surrounded by the soft glow of chandeliers and the echo of distant music, Maya felt something she hadn't in a long time: hope. She laughed, softly at first, then louder, a sound that drew curious glances but felt liberating. The same friends who had mocked her now watched as she reclaimed her presence with quiet confidence, the once shy glow replaced by a radiant aura of self-assurance. As the reception ended and guests began to depart, Jameson stayed by her side. He didn't hold her like she needed rescuing, he stood beside her, a partner in presence and strength. They stepped outside, the night air crisp and refreshing, and Maya realized that life, even in its cruelest moments, had a way of bringing the right people when she needed them most. Before the final farewell, Maya turned to the camera of her mind, imagining sharing this story with countless viewers who might feel unseen, hurt, or dismissed. She spoke softly, but with conviction: no matter what anyone says, no matter how they treat you, never forget your worth. You are stronger than you know, and sometimes, life has a way of showing that in the most unexpected ways. If this story touched your heart, please engage with the video by liking, commenting, sharing, and subscribing to Kindness Tales. Every action helps spread hope to someone who might need it today. Special request: always remember to lift others up, especially when the world tries to tear them down. Kindness is the echo that changes lives. Maya and Jameson watched the last guests leave, the moonlight reflecting off the polished marble floors. She felt lighter, stronger, and unafraid. In that moment, she realized something profound: humiliation was temporary, but self-respect, courage, and love were eternal. And as they walked toward the quiet streets, leaving behind the glittering chaos, she smiled. Not just because the night had ended differently than she expected, but because she had finally seen the truth: she was never alone, and she was always enough.